Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to all the participants of PHAUSS. Hello, I'm Yurika and I'm very happy to see you again. I hope you are all healthy and in your best condition. Well, since Monday, we've been discussing on antioxidant and functional food, and now we finally come to the last day of our summer course program. Today, we will be discussing on regulations and consumers' perception of functional food. Well, I guess this is a very interesting topic because this pandemic somehow shifts people's interest in their food intake, which is actually good because it raises awareness. But somehow, on the other side, hopes about food is also raised. Therefore, today we will look forward to the regulations and the consumer perception, especially in functional food. Anyway, I understand that we are all very excited and have a lot of questions about this topic. So if you want or you have any questions related to this topic, you can write your question with the format name, your university or institution, then your question, and you put it in the chat box. Or you can directly ask Professor Peng by using the raise hand feature. So without any further ado, just prepare your pen and notes because we will start our course that will be delivered by Professor Peng and moderated by Mr. Dominikus Raditya. I guess Mr. Domi is already ready, Mr.
Yes, hello, good morning.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Domi, over to you. The time is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Eu. Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to learn more about functional food. Today we are having a very special moment because Prof will teach us about consumer perception and also about the regulation of the functional foods internationally and based on Malaysian experience. Okay, Prof Lo, are you with us today?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Okay.
Hello, Prof Lo. Okay, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay. So today we are going to look at the regulation of some of these different countries. Okay, actually I try to search for Indonesia, but maybe I am wrong. Okay, but later on when I share, I hope you all can give some feedback if whatever I mention especially is not correct. Okay, because somehow I seems not to be able to find the source for some of this information. So maybe whatever I mentioned, especially for Indonesia, might not be correct. Okay, so but let me share with you all, especially most of the country that actually have some regulation on functional food. Okay, so so basically we are going to look at the some of the regulation in some of the countries, especially like the US and European country. And I will share a bit on Malaysia as well. Okay, but I do hope if we can have some discussion, maybe we can share how in Indonesia, the regulation of it. And also we will look at some of the consumer perception and perspective, especially related to functional food. So how actually the public or consumer look at this and how whatever they are choosing, is it based on the regulation or is it based on some other things that they actually would choose some of these functional food. Okay, so a lot of time when we look at the regulation, right? Okay, and some of the countries actually have this term functional food in the regulation itself, but not all countries will have. Malaysia, for one, do not have the term functional food in the regulation. So we have the regulation for the claims and so on, but it's not actually used in the regulatory system. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, I try to search for Indonesia, right? I saw there's a publication mentioning that I think in the year 2005, there's actually regulation, or the word functional food you can use in the labeling, and also there's some regulation about functional food in Indonesia. But I think this actually changed in 2011. Okay, so the term functional food actually have been removed from the regulation in Indonesia. So up to now, if I'm not mistaken, they did mention that there's no longer the term functional food. Only for 5 years or so, like for 5 or 6 years, that you have the word functional food, and actually they sort of regulate it by having the different claim on it. Okay, but other countries might not actually use the term functional food, especially like in Japan, right? They use the foshu word, but not functional food. Okay, so this is something that it seems that like it's not like the term functional food might be missing in the regulation, okay, but they are actually regulated somehow differently. Okay, so if a company want to, or food manufacturer want to apply for certain claim, they must follow the country's regulation, and some of it will allow certain kind of claim and some will not. Okay, and all this regulation must be actually in place, because the most important thing is who is buying all these things, right? Okay, so this is where you will notice the functional food is actually most likely targeting to the general population. Okay, so the consumer is actually will be the one buying it, and in order to protect consumer, all these term and claims in the functional food or whatever ingredients that we are looking at as part of the functional food must be controlled. So not every body can claim anything or mention anything, because consumer tend to believe or buy what they think will be beneficial to them. Okay, so I'm sure every one of us, like during this pandemic time, if there's any what we call that food that actually can protect us, can help us to become better, I am sure that a lot of time we will notice that we will actually go for it. Okay, so so that's how consumer will behave in that sense. But I'm sure with the different choices of functional food, there's other factors as well. Okay, but in order to protect consumer, all this regulatory system must be in place. Okay, and also this is also to the regulation actually is to help the basis for all this claim. Okay, so we know that sometimes you want to say this food is good, okay, it's healthy for us, but is there any scientific evidence to support all these things? So this is also to make sure that if the company or food manufacturer wanted to do all these claim, they are actually based on scientific evidence. Okay, so this is something that is very important, in the sense that the science behind all these things must be in place. Okay, not just simply saying or by testimony or passed down from generation to generation that this is beneficial, but there's no scientific basis on that. Okay, and also this is the most important one. I will say that this is actually to prevent if you have people who just want to market the product in whichever way that they think can make money. Okay, so this is actually to prevent all these fraudulent practices, as well as all those non-permitted health claims. Because as you know, different countries will have different regulation on how you can claim something. Okay, so sometimes you just simply want to claim something, right? Especially is related to diseases, right? You cannot just simply claim. Okay, so this is also to educate the public as well as the food manufacturer that some of these things are not permitted. Okay, and so you can see that a lot of time the regulatory agency of various country, right, they will have different kind of claims that is permitted, okay, as well as what are their scientific evidence quality that they need, okay, because certain countries, they will actually go very detailed on what type of scientific evidence that they actually can accept. Okay, so you can see that some like US, for example, they even give rating for the different scientific evidence. Okay, maybe some other countries just say we need at least human studies. Okay, but in US they even give rating. Okay, so you can see they have the criteria on even the scientific evidences that is actually presented to them. Okay, so some countries are more detailed in that sense, some are not so detailed, I would say. Okay. Okay, we will start off with US first. So in the US, the functional food claims and all these claims that is mentioned in the food is actually monitored and controlled by the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. So I'm sure we have heard the word FDA for a lot of time, especially even in COVID-19 time, because they are also the one that handle the drug part. Okay, so you will sure hear the word FDA quite a lot. Okay, and they are one of the body that normally a lot of countries look up to, meaning that they are like the big brother. Okay, so if whatever they say, we tend to follow in that sense, because they are kind of like very authoritative in that sense when we talk about food and drug. Okay, so if somebody claim they get FDA approval, right, there's a very high chance other country or other regulatory agency might see that as something that is good, okay, because not easy to get FDA approval, okay, or if you mention certain things. But I understand if you look at US as well as the European Commission, right, they tend to want to go their own way. Okay, so if you get approval from FDA, right, you might not easily get any approval from EFSA. Okay, so somehow the European and the US doesn't work very well. Okay, so you notice that if you get approval from European Commission regulatory board, right, doesn't mean that you will get FDA. So somehow both of them don't work very well together, I would say. So there will be some of these kind of things that will happen in big countries also. Okay. Okay, so when we talk about FDA, they are the one that actually authorize health claim. Okay, so you will notice that when they, if you want to produce or market food product in US, right, and you want to do some claim, you need to apply to FDA. Okay, and they are the one that actually will look at your application and see whether those food or dietary supplement actually able to do something that following whatever criteria they actually will look at. Okay, so they have actually different criteria, or what we call health claim, that they actually allow. Okay. And all these claims, if you want to make, right, must be supported by scientific evidences. Okay, so this is where a strong scientific evidence is actually required, especially looking at what the food that containing certain substance or bioactive, right, can actually do to a disease, especially if you want to claim something that is related to health or disease. If you just want to claim nutrient, right, is a different thing. So that one we will call it as a nutrition claim or nutrient claim. Okay, but if you want to look at how the specific substance or food component actually can help in a certain health condition, right? So this is where you must actually provide enough supporting evidence that they are actually beneficial or able to do that. Okay, and here the first one that I like to inform or mention here is actually the authorized health claim. So this is where is the highest claim that you actually can make in the under the US FDA. So this is something that is what we call supported by very high or significant scientific agreement. So, and this is actually done by qualified experts. So maybe like, let's say if you want to have these kind of things in Indonesia, for example, what is the highest authority in nutrition, for example? Maybe you have what we call that, the Society of Nutrition, for example, or the Academy of Nutrition in Indonesia, for example. So this is where this will be the highest or the most qualified authority to mention something about that condition or that evidence. Okay, so like for example, in US, right, they have the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, or maybe if you are in different field, you have all those kind of like association or society or institute that actually can become the authority for that. So in order to get this authorized health claim, if you have this kind of authority or bodies to support it, you can see they will actually be placed under this authorized health claim. So this is not just simply one or two papers coming out from a research. Okay, so this is something that is supported by authorized body. Okay, so meaning that if the institute or the society or something like that actually support this statement or this evidence, right? Okay, so this is something that is going to be placed under authorized health claim. Okay, so this is the highest health claim that you can find in the claim under FDA. So not many, I think there's about 13, if I'm not mistaken, authorized health claim under US FDA. Okay, so this is something that is like the highest authority can actually give this support to the scientific evidence. Okay, so these are the authorized or approved health claim under this. Okay, so this is where you can see, like for example, calcium, vitamin D, and osteoporosis. So you can actually claim if the food is high in calcium, it can reduce osteoporosis. Okay, and dietary lipids, fat, and relationship with cancer. So this is where you can actually claim if the food is low in certain kind of fat, okay, it can actually prevent cancer. Okay, so this is something that they actually allow in the US FDA. Okay, so you can see all those things like folic acid and neurotube defect. So if this food is high in folic acid, it can actually prevent neurotube defect and so on. Okay, so this will be all the authorized health claim. Okay, so because all the scientific evidence for all these things are actually shown quite a lot and has been approved, endorsed by all these authoritative body. Okay, so you can have you can see all these different authorized health claim. Okay, then we have another type that is called qualified health claim. Okay, so this is something that you have some scientific evidence, okay, not what we call that a lot, okay, but they are not supported or endorsed by the authoritative body. Okay, so what they call this as do not meet the significant scientific agreement. Okay, so this is where not everyone or authority actually support this scientific evidence. Okay, so that will be something that can actually appear in as qualified health claim. Okay? So this qualified health claim, you can see what kind of scientific evidences that is given. So this is where I mentioned just now, they give different rating for the evidence. Okay, so the highest you can get for the qualified health claim is actually B. Okay, so this is where although there is scientific evidence supporting the claim, the evidence is not conclusive. Okay, so this is where it's considered as a B category. Okay, when scientific evidence suggests, then they will have the word however. Okay, so this is where the FDA has determined that this evidence is limited and not conclusive. So this is C. Okay, and D is very limited and preliminary scientific research. Okay, so when you have all these different criterias, right, they must actually appear in the together with the qualified health claim. So when as a consumer, you know, oh, this one is only a D category. Okay, so maybe you would take note that maybe the evidence is not enough to support all these particular claims. So you must be very cautious when you want to buy this kind of items that have this kind of claim. Okay. The highest category A is just now the authorized health claim. Okay, so that is where you don't get the category A in the qualified health claim. The category A belongs to the authorized health claim. So that is where it actually meet the significant scientific agreement standard. Okay, so this is how US FDA will actually place all these functional food that you want to claim to have certain health properties or able to is beneficial for our health. So if you look at it, so you will see how they are actually placed under different health claim. Okay, now we go into the European Food Safety Authority. So this is under EFSA. Okay, so they actually have three different kind of claims. Okay, so the first one is very common that we know, that's called the nutrition claim. Okay, I'm sure in your country you also have this nutrition claim. So this is just like high in vitamin or fiber or protein, or low in calories, salt, sugar. So, and all these will have their own cutoff, right? So what is considered as high? What is considered as low? Okay, all these things will actually have cutoff value. Okay, I'm not sure whether different countries have different cutoff value. Malaysia, for one, we follow Codex. Okay, so we do have the cutoff according to Codex. Okay. So, so these are the very common ways of mentioning certain food that is high in nutrients. Okay, so this is all known nutrients. Okay, so whether it's a good nutrients or it's like salt or calorie or sugar. Okay, so then you have the health claim part. Okay, so health claim is that you need to look at is actually consider those that affirm, suggest, or imply that there is a relation between a food category, a food, or one of its component and health. So this is actually the relationship between the food as well as some of its component and health. Okay, so same like USDA as well, US FDA as well as most country, you need to have scientific evidence to support all these things. Okay, especially if actually there's a cause-effect relationship. Okay, so meaning that you must be quite sure that this is due to this particular food or the food component that is causing it to go up, go down, and something like that. Okay, so it's actually affecting your health. Okay, so this is where a cause-effect relationship must be shown. Okay, then you also will notice that the food or compound that we are claiming actually is defined and characterized. Okay, so meaning that the study behind all this food composition, the nutrient inside, what are their characteristics. All those things must be actually studied. So if you want to have a food, for example, let's say these particular vegetables, okay, so whatever compound inside this that you want to claim to have this cause effect relationship with health, in this particular food, all these things must be actually characterized. So if you know that there's, let's say, some polyphenols inside, okay, so the polyphenols must be characterized and actually measured, okay. And also another very important thing is that how is the actual consumption pattern in the daily diet. Okay, so for example, like we are promoting the intake of this particular food. Okay, so if this food is seldom consumed or only consumed in a small amount, okay, you must actually look at it whether you can actually the manufacturer can actually achieve this amount what we call in a normal balanced diet. Okay, so all these things must be actually taken or looked into considerably, because if not, then we are not promoting something until it's going to be go extreme. So for example, like you want somebody to take like 2 or 3 servings of your food, and that food is not actually recommended, or in a balanced diet, that food is only like just 1 serving. Okay, so you might notice that that becomes something like very extreme and not easy to be achieved in that sense. Okay. And here you can see in the EFSA, right, they actually allow reduction of disease risk claim. Okay, so this is something that is slightly higher than the US FDA. So this is where they actually allow you to claim that they actually able to reduce certain disease. Okay, so this is where you can look at it's very specifically targeted that it will appear in the label. So if you are having certain condition, right, and this food is helpful, people tend to want to buy. So this is something that I would say reduction of disease risk is the highest claim that you normally will be mentioned in a food. Okay, so in Malaysia, this particular reduction of disease risk is not allowed. Okay, so anything that you mentioned that it can reduce a disease is not allowed in Malaysia. Okay, so but in the European countries, they actually will allow it. Okay, so after they have a look at all the scientific evidence, okay, so they will actually say, yes, this is allowed. And if you look at the label, okay, so it must be consistent throughout. So if a product actually claim to, let's say, able to reduce hypertension, for example, okay, so throughout their claim, right, it must appear on the label, advertisement, presentation, okay, and all this must be followed by any statement to the consumer, okay. And also if you notice also that they actually will mention all the what we call that, the condition where this actually will happen. So if you modify some of these things and you did not achieve the reduction of the disease, so at least they are like protected, or say that you, because you didn't follow all these things. So not just consuming this food, but also they will mention that you need also to be physically active and so on. So they will actually mention all the requirement together with the food. So this is where it's actually like a bit long if you look at those kind of reduction of disease risk claim. Okay. Okay, so this is an example of the what we call that, the reduction of disease risk claim that is authorized by EFSA. Okay, so if you look at what are actually allowed, okay, so so these will be some of those like folic acid can actually what we call that reduce your risk of neurotube defect. So this is an example of how you should write the claim. Okay, so for example, supplemental folic acid intake increase maternal folate status. Low maternal folate status is risk factor in the development of neurotube defect in the developing fetus. So this kind of statement must appear. Okay, so even if you have high folic acid in your food and you want to do this kind of this reduction of disease risk claim, right? So you must have this kind of statement. So you must link the maternal folate status to the risk of development of neurotube defect. So not just say taking this food, you will not get your child will not get neurotube defect, something like that. Okay, so you must actually see the sentences, how they actually word it. Okay, and this is what actually is the one that is allowed. Not many is allowed. I think there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so 12 statements only are allowed for this reduction of disease risk claim. Okay, so this is what is in the EFSA. Okay. Okay, so I like to just highlight there's actually this publication that actually compare 3 different countries. Okay, US FDA, EFSA, as well as Japan. Okay, so they actually have compared even Japan as well. Okay, so in Japan, right, the regulation is actually looking straight at PHAUSS. Okay, so I would say that PHAUSS is the one that they actually look at, and they actually have what they call that the similar like USDA, they have nutrition claim, they have health claim, okay, and under PHAUSS they actually have different different kind of what we call that different kind of claim under PHAUSS itself. Okay, so you actually have what we call that regulation, regular ordinary PHAUSS, okay, and also qualified PHAUSS, standardized PHAUSS, as well as reduction of disease risk PHAUSS. Okay, so they do is something like the health claim that is allowed, okay, but they just word it using the word PHAUSS. So meaning that the food actually are just regular food but with health benefit, or they are mentioning it as a reduction of disease risk PHAUSS. Okay, so they do have different categories as well, but I will not go into detail of the categories. But what I would like to highlight in this particular paper is that they actually have seen that different countries actually have some sort like similar claim. Okay, so you have like health claim, you have disease reduction, disease risk reduction claim, okay, and so on. But just the way how you apply to these different regulatory bodies is different, and how they actually monitor this is all different as well. Okay, but the like you call that the wording is maybe almost similar, but just the execution part of it might be actually different. Okay, so this will be some of the things that you will notice that most countries will have some sort like similar claim allowed. Okay, just that when you talk about how they apply it, or the procedure, or the regulatory part, like whether you need to provide how much of scientific evidence, and how they are actually being monitored and so on, may be different from country to country. So this is something just to let you know, okay, so that you understand that most countries actually do have a sort of a set of this kind of health claim in place. Okay, I'd like to share a bit on Malaysia. Okay, so in Malaysia we do have what we call that like nutrients. Okay, so most of the time when we talk about the functional food, it will be regulated so-called under this nutrient section. Okay, so somehow but what is important here that they actually have one part of it that is considered as other component in food, not nutrients. Okay, so that may actually possess physiological function beyond basic nutrition. So even we regulate all the nutrients in the food, okay, but there's also what we call them as other component in food, okay, and this is what they actually have amended, I think in 2000, early 2000, okay, to include other food component in it, okay. So this is what actually are being allowed if you have functional food to claim it under this particular section, other food component, okay, especially if you have added in a very specific food ingredients or food component that is not classified as nutrient. Okay, so this is the wording that you we will normally will look at as actually what is actually the added nutrient here. Okay, so they have even the other food components. So when we talk about the nutrient, right, here in Malaysian food regulation, they actually allow other food component to be considered as other added nutrient. Okay, so that is where when you add them in, they actually can improve the nutritional value of the food. Okay, so this is under what we call table 1 of the 12th schedule. Okay, and there's actually some what we call that permitted added nutrient. Okay, so they actually have the regulation of what actually is permitted added nutrient. Later on, we will see what are actually permitted added nutrient. Okay, so this will be the permitted added nutrient, the vitamins, as well as some of the minerals, okay, as well as the other food components. Okay, so this is where you can see the other food components include all the different kind of food ingredients or bioactive, especially the more recent one looking like plant sterol, soy protein, okay, beta glucan, okay, and also some of the polyphenols like EGCG, okay, and all these oligosaccharides and so on. Okay, so this is something that is allowed in the Malaysian food regulation. Okay, and also they will allow this as dietary fiber as well. Okay, so looking at the different dietary fiber. So there's actually different in the other food components as well as dietary fiber. So depending on the sources of some of these food component and actually what you would like to claim it as. Is it dietary fiber or you want to claim it as other food component? Okay, then this is a recent one, I think is in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. They have just added in new permitted nutrient. Okay, so this is just the new one that is being added in, so you don't see this few one in the previous slide, because the previous slide comes directly from the what we call that, the book. Okay. Okay, so when we talk about all these nutrients, right, they will want to claim something with the nutrients. So in Malaysia, we have different kind of claims allowed, and there's also prohibited claims. So I did mention disease risk reduction is not permitted in Malaysia. Okay, so you cannot find that this is actually able to reduce this disease and so on. So all these things are not allowed in Malaysia, okay? Or you can cure or prevent, okay? And also we do not allow if you have that word provide an adequate source of all essential nutrient. Okay, so this is where you cannot claim your food is like can cover everything. Okay, so so if you have this kind of claim, that actually cannot be allowed. Okay, what is allowed in Malaysia is the most common one, like nutrient content claim. So this food contain how much of nutrient, or nutrient comparative claim. So you can actually compare, especially with your own, maybe you want to come up with a newer version of the food. Okay, you can compare what is different between the old version and the new version. So the nutrient comparative claim is allowed for this kind of things. So normally you don't compare with your competitor. Okay, I think it's not allowed to compare with competitor. Okay, but you can actually compare between like the old version and the new version. So maybe if you have added in or fortified or enriched the food, for example, you can do nutrient comparative claim. So like higher by 25% or lower by how many percent. So this is where you can do this nutrient comparative claim for your own product, okay, before and after you have improved the product. So you will see those are the normal nutrient comparative claim. Nutrient function claim, I think most of us are aware that you just state what is the function of this nutrient. Is, for example, calcium is good for bone health. So you know that the function of calcium is for your bone. Okay, but you don't claim more than that. You don't claim osteoporosis or something like that. So this is very common in food that is high in certain nutrients. So maybe like, for example, like if you look at milk formula, right? Okay, so they actually will sometimes have calcium is good for your bone, okay, or for iron is important for the production of hemoglobin or something like that. So you will see that that is the nutrient function claim that is allowed. The other function claim we were going to look at it. This is where you will start to see in Malaysia, for example, some other kind of claim related to the bioactive and its relationship with health is actually allowed. Okay, so this is where it falls other function claim. Okay, nutrient enrichment or fortification claim is like when you enrich or fortify the product, you can actually claim it is actually enriched or fortified. Okay, so like fortified with what so all this enrichment fortification must reach certain percent. If you do not reach the percentage, right, it actually would not be allowed to claim as enrichment or fortification. Okay, so if it must be up to a certain amount. Okay, and nutritious claim. Okay, so this is something that I find it kind of like how do you claim it as a nutritious? So this is something is allowed. So you can see some of these being mentioned in the food that is actually marketed in Malaysia. So sometimes they do have certain claim for this, but they do have the criteria how you can actually claim this nutritious claim. Okay. Okay, so this is, I would like to highlight the other food components, especially the claim that is allowed under this. So just now we have gone through all these things, okay, and they have actually just included probiotic in the list of other food components as well, okay. So this is actually being added. I will just go through quickly, like what are some of the example of these other food components. Okay, so they have the 23 classical nutrients and they have the other 29 other food component inside. So this is all the other food components. Okay, so a lot of these are just added in. Okay, and when we have this other food component, this is where they will claim it as other function claim. Okay, so what are actually all these other function claim? Like for example, beta glucan is like can help lower or reduce cholesterol. Okay, so like inulin oligosaccharides, they actually mention it as increased bifidobacteria, help maintain a good intestinal environment. But they actually need to fulfill certain criteria before they actually can claim for it. So each of these statement, right, you must actually fulfill the criteria for it. Okay, so for example, you want to say inulin is a prebiotic. Okay, so what is the criteria for that? So they must reach certain amount of it, then you can only claim that is actually a prebiotic. Okay, so if you just put a little bit of inulin inside the food and you want to claim inulin is a prebiotic, this kind of claim will be rejected in Malaysia. Okay, so you must achieve a certain condition before you actually can claim all these things. Okay. Okay, and the same thing with, like, for example, like DHA and ARA may contribute to the visual development of infant and so on. And all this also must be what we call that, fulfill certain requirement, and also must actually get approval from our Ministry of Health Director. Okay, so this is where not just because it's mentioned already in the food regulation, you can just simply claim it. Okay, so each time you want to do this other food components, other functional claim, right, all these things also must actually get approval. Okay, so not just simply there's this kind of things, you just want to use it, so must get approval before you can claim all these things. So including isomaltulose and so on. Okay, so this is actually, some of it seems like what the nutrient can actually do. Okay, so they not necessarily must be like a health claim kind of things. Okay, so you can see it's actually like prebiotic, bifidogenic, and so on. So this is all most of them are the what we call that, the oligosaccharides. Okay, and even like lutein, for example. Okay, so like lutein is a predominant macular pigment in the retina. Okay, so they actually will mention like that. Okay, and what is the function of lutein is actually to filter blue light and may protect the eye. So this will be something that you can claim, but they don't mention, you cannot mention like lutein will help you or reduce your risk of macular degeneration and so on. So you cannot claim those kind of things if you have lutein in your product. Okay, plant sterol. Okay, so like beta glucan, plant sterols, you can see that they actually mention you can reduce cholesterol. Okay, soy protein as well. Okay. Salic acid, I think there's quite a lot of infant formula especially actually put in salic acid, and they actually allow the claim salic acid is an important component of brain tissue. Okay, so they just stop at that, but they didn't mention that it will make the brain function better, or your IQ will be higher and so on, but they just mentioned it's important component of brain tissue. So that stops there. Okay, so these are some of the claim that is actually allowed. Beta palmitin. So this is actually other form of nutrient that is allowed. Beta glucan. So here you can even see the beta glucan actually coming from various sources. Just now the oats one, you see reducing cholesterol, but this beta glucan coming from yeast is for immune system. Okay, and this one coming from barley, for example, actually would mention that it can reduce blood glucose. Okay, so this is something that is actually mentioned with kind of different effect than the beta glucan coming from oat. Okay. Okay, so this is calcium derivose. Okay, so and also slow digestible starch. So this is actually more on the glycemic index kind of function. Okay, so these are some of the special condition required for other function claim. Okay, so all these if you want to apply for other function claim, right, the minimum amount must be present. So meaning that if you want to say that there's beta glucan in your food, okay, you must actually achieve at least 0.75 gram per serving. Okay, and also there will be other condition like you must write something in your label and only can claim in the infant formula, for example, or this must be there's also the minimum or maximum amount, for example. Okay, so all there's a lot of other condition that is actually required. So especially for labeling and certain restriction of certain food. Okay, so not all food you can actually claim all these things. Okay, so this will be just the scenario in Malaysia. Okay, so before I go into the consumer perspective on this, okay, I just like to mention, if I am not mistaken, so I would like to highlight here that the paper that I managed to find regarding the claim in Indonesia. So I think the one that I mentioned that showing the functional food is in 2005. Okay, so they actually allow the nutritional claim, the nutritional the nutrition function claim, as well as the health benefit claims. But then after 2011, they actually have removed this functional food regulation. But maybe we can discuss this later, whether whatever I have read is correct. Okay, because this is the only thing I managed to find in Indonesia, because I guess maybe I do not know how to search properly. Okay, so what is replacing the functional food is actually the processed food. So correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so when they put in the processed food, right, so they also have the nutritional claim, the health claim, as well as the claim for glycemic index. Okay, so this is where I think starting from 2016, you have the claims on processed food labels. Okay, so I don't know if it's fresh or raw food, okay, whether you still fall it under this. Okay, but I assume a lot of these kind of manufactured food will be under considered as a processed food. Okay, so then in 2016, this claim become nutritional claim as well as health claim and other claims. Okay, so so that is what I managed to get. So but I don't know whether do you consider the claim on processed food labels is the one that is actually handling all the functional food in Indonesia. But maybe we can discuss this later on. Okay. Okay, so now we are going to look at the consumer perception or perspective, how they actually look at the functional food. Okay, so if you want to predict, okay, so if you think that whether the food is going to be able to penetrate the market, or people are going to buy this functional food, or this functional food is going to be popular or not, we look at some there's a wide reason for all these things, or various factors that actually interplay when we talk about this. Okay, first thing is gender. I think everyone will agree. Maybe different gender will view things differently. Maybe ladies and gentlemen are different. Okay, so maybe some are more practical, some are more emotional. Okay, when we look at certain food. Okay, and age group also, as we grow older, I will believe that we tend to look at food differently. Okay, and maybe we are more careful with our health. Okay, compared to the younger generation. Like for example, myself, I ask my two kids, right? Eat less of this food, eat more of fruits and vegetables because it's good for your health. Okay, for them it's like something, oh, I'm healthy now, there's nothing wrong. And I would need to inform them, you don't see the effect now, wait till you are like my age, then you will start to feel, oh, you have all these problems, start to feel the pain and the ache and all these things, then you know. Okay, so sometimes you find that the different age group will have different priorities, and maybe for them, the younger age group might not see the importance of some of this functional food compared to the older one. Okay, level of education. So this is where you can see the knowledge background. Okay, so how much they know about some of these things. Okay, and also personal health status. So if you are already sick, you tend to want to improve your health compared to those who are not sick. Okay, so you notice this can actually contribute as well on how much on the purchasing or the need to consume some of these functional food. Okay, and also there's also an important thing is the consumer understanding of the health claim. Okay, so when you start to see all these claim, whether it's a nutrition claim, or is it a health claim or disease reduction claim, what actually they understand with that. Okay, so the understanding part of this health claim is also very important. Okay, for example, like in Malaysia, the Ministry of Health is doing quite a lot of roadshow to help the public, especially to know how to read the labels, especially the food labels. Okay, so not just the claim, but the labels itself, because a lot of time, like consumer, right, when we buy food, some of us might not actually read anything, like except for the differences in price and the expiry date, right? Okay, but we don't actually read how much of calories or how much of what are the things, the component ingredients inside the food. Okay, that actually might be different. Okay, so sometimes we never really compare these kind of things. And a lot of us just buy because of the branding as well. So that's why branding can be very important to market a lot of things, right? Okay, so you will notice that suddenly all these, especially the famous brand, will be much more accepted compared to the not so well-known brand. If you compare both food is like similar, right? So you notice that the famous brand will tend to get a better what we call that acceptance of consumer, okay, rather than a not so well known brand. Okay, so but consumer must actually understand, okay, what is all this health claim about. Okay, so that is something that education is very important. Okay, like in Malaysia, right, I just noticed, like in the primary school as well as secondary school syllabus, right, they do teach about nutrition. Okay, the food guide pyramid, what are all the nutrients about, but they never mention about any of this health claim. So how to understand what is all this health claim about. Okay, so that's where I think more education or roadshow about all this health claim must be actually done. Okay, I'd like to just highlight there's one study actually compare, okay, the consumer perception in China versus in Germany. So one is in Asian country, one is in European country on functional food. Okay, so first thing is how willing the consumer to buy functional food. Okay, so here you can see Chinese people are more willing to buy functional food. Okay, so they are meaning that if there's functional food in the market, the Chinese compared to the German are more willing to buy. Okay. Especially what they compare is like in the German population, right? They actually not so willing to buy the functional food as compared with there's no additional health benefits. So for example, like if you compare, let's say two food, that one is added with health benefit, okay, the other one is without any addition of health benefit, the German will actually buy without addition of health benefit. Okay, so they are not willing to pay for more in the sense. Okay, so but the Chinese are more willing to buy if you say it's added with this amount of a nutrient, the Chinese will be willing to buy. Okay, and comparing both countries, right? They see that health motivation, okay, as well as trust in the food industry is actually a main factor. Okay, so if you have a better health motivation yourself, so you want to be better, you yourself are taking care of your health, okay, as well as you trust the food industry, so you will be more willing to buy those kind of functional food. Okay, compare if you don't have very high health motivation, some people will not bother about that. Okay, so they say, never mind. Okay, I live 50 years, I'm okay already, no need to live so long. Okay, or some people are actually, I remember some will say that all the big food industry are like bad people. Okay, so they just want to earn more money or take our money and so on. So some will actually not trust the industry, and this can actually contribute to us not able to or not willing to buy this kind of food product coming from this kind of industry. Okay, so they will say that, oh, they just add in something and they want to earn more money or like squeeze us out of it. Okay, so this can actually be seen as a mistrust in the food industry. Okay, then another thing is food neophobia. So how willing a person to try new food. Okay, so if you are a neophobia, meaning that you are afraid of trying new food, okay, so this can actually have negative impact on acceptance of functional food. Okay, and this happened in China. Okay, so meaning that they are not willing to try new food. If the food should be round and you give them a square food, for example, they will think that is a new food and they are not willing to try. Okay, so this is something that is what we call related to culture. Okay, so you might notice that different culture might have different ways of accepting new food. Okay, so if the food is not a normal food or something that is new to that culture, like maybe for Chinese, they are not so willing to accept new food. Okay, but for German people, they are okay, meaning that maybe the more mysterious or newer the food, they might find that they are more curious to try it maybe. Okay, so different culture do have things. I find that Asian population are very not to say are more timid and not so adventurous, I would say. So we might not want to try new food that is out of our culture. Okay, so maybe if we know that we have been taking rice and noodles for our food, suddenly you change it to something else, we might not be able to adapt and might actually have this kind of perception that this kind of food, I'm not willing to try it. Okay, so this will be something that you will notice in different culture also will affect it, because a lot of this functional food is considered like something like a new food to a lot of culture, because they have been using the food as it is. But when you modify the food or add in something to the food, they will view the food as differently. Okay, so that's where food neophobia will come in. Okay, so if you are not willing to try new food, there will be a chance that this kind of functional food might not work if you change the whole, let's say, the appearance and the kind of food that is normally look like. Okay, so they might think that it's actually a whole different food altogether. Okay, so this would be just an example of like comparing different culture, like from in the Asian as well as a European country perspective. Okay. Okay, then this is actually a study done among the elderly people in the US. Okay, so what is actually the factors reported to increase functional food consumption? But this is among the elderly. Okay, so you can see that knowledge is very important. Okay, so this is where if you have knowledge or awareness of the importance or the need for the functional food, the people actually will buy that functional food or consume that functional food, okay, compared to like advertisement. Okay, so advertisement is the least that actually will influence it. Okay, so another important thing is the health professional influence, maybe as doctors, nurses, or nutritionists, dietitian, for example. If you mention something to this consumer or public, right, they will believe you because it's not something like the health professional actually, not to say endorse, but will actually encourage the consumption of it. Then you will see the consumer, especially the elderly, will actually believe it and also will buy or consume some of the product. Okay. Then you can see availability, taste, cost or price, okay, as well as family or friends influence also will be there. Okay, but the most important thing is actually awareness and knowledge. Okay, so meaning that if you believe or understand what is the functional food about, there will be a higher chance that you are willing to buy and consume them. Okay, so this is a study that is done in the US. Okay. So this is another study just like to share is in Vietnam. Okay, so this is like in Asian countries. What are some of the key factors affecting consumer intention to purchase a functional food? So this is actually a yogurt. Okay, so they consider yogurt as functional food. Okay, so here, what are the some of the factors? Okay, so so if you look at the last sentence here, okay, so from this abstract, you can see education and communication program that aim at increasing consumer health consciousness and their awareness is very important. So here is also education, okay, as well as increasing awareness. So all in all, I would say that it is very important to increase the knowledge, the education, and the awareness of the consumer about functional food. Okay, so I will not say advertisement can work because some will view advertisement as very biased. Okay, so you can say that we use advertisement to educate, to increase awareness and so on, but some will not actually believe in advertisement. Okay, so because we would think advertisement is biased and is not actually neutral. Okay, so if you want to increase awareness, education is actually coming from the maybe the health professionals or just general education in schools or public forum, something like that. Okay, so that will be a more neutral way of increasing education and awareness about that. Okay, so to conclude for today, so we have actually mentioned about all these different claims actually will have influence in consumer decision, because the thing is that the consumer must be able to understand what is all these claims about. So their education, their awareness must be there, okay, to be able to understand this condition, okay. And some of these claims, as we know, that is actually similar in some of the countries, but not in the way how they are being regulated. Okay, so application-wise, how they apply it, and also the regulatory framework is actually not the same. Okay, and also there will be some differences on how the functional food consumption in different countries, like what we have seen, China versus Germany. Okay, but we need to explore it more, because I think there's quite a lot of studies on different countries, but comparing different countries is not many. Okay, so if you look at study in US, European country, and some of the Asian country, I think there's quite a lot of studies, individual countries, but when you want to compare them together, I think it will be good if we can do more studies of comparison together. Okay, and also I think also it's very important that this understanding of the consumer needs, especially in relation to their traditional diet, okay, or any special dietary needs, okay, is actually good to help in the increasing awareness and giving education, because we cannot just use whatever education that is available, because we also need to link it with the traditional diet, okay, so that they will understand what is this functional food and what is the differences between functional food and traditional diet, so that they can see some of the link as well as differences. Okay, so because like I mentioned just now, food neophobia do exist. Okay, so when you start to introduce like functional food, okay, so they might think it's something new, but it might be actually in relation with their traditional diet. Okay, so this will be something that we can actually look at, especially to increase understanding of the consumer needs in the future. Okay, I think that is my last slide. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Flo, for a very insightful moment. Is there anyone who want to ask? You may write in the chat box, or you can also directly ask Professor Love by unmute your audio and also turn on your video.
Maybe anyone here can share on the food regulation in Indonesia, because I would be interested to know as well. Anyone can share, especially in relationship with, in relation with the food, functional food, like we have seen like the US FDA, the EFSA. But I would like to know how it is with Indonesia. How do you regulate functional food in Indonesia?
Maybe anyone who want to share your idea? Ibu Nadirah mungkin? Or Ibu Lail? Ibu Konita?
Ya, Pak Domi.
Do you have any idea about functional food regulation in Indonesia?
Well, I'm not really sure if they have any regulation, because I'm not really look deeper into it. I'm just I'm giving more attention to the functional food for complementary feeding. I'm not sure if it's functional food or not, but to develop the complementary feeding, or maybe I could say it's a fortified food. Yes, they do have a very strict regulation about it, but functional food, I'm not really, I don't really understand, because maybe the existence of functional food is not that much. in Indonesia, so maybe they're not really given attention to it. So that's what I think.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, I'm driving.
it's okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, just I want to edit some of Miss Konita idea. I also know some of our regulation is not too strict to regulate the functional food in Indonesia. We mostly our regulation are based on USDA regulation to regulate the functional food, like the usage of the inulin, PHAUSS, GOS, and etc. Especially in for the baby and the under 5 children foods. So yeah, for person that for food that are purposely not for the children, it is not not having to strict regulation like for the children in Indonesia. So yeah, the usage is also just a small small area. So not all food are having that functional food in Indonesia.
Okay.
Okay, is there anyone who want to ask to Professor Lo? Okay, that is a question in the chat box from Ibu Dina from Universitas Indonesia. Thank you, Prof, for more comprehensive explanation on the regulation. Will you please share the best practice in Malaysia or other countries that can be done as a law enforcement implementation? Do they give any sanction to the industry? Thank you.
Okay, like for example, in Malaysia, I think they try to be nice to the industry, but in the same time, they actually are quite strict in that sense. Okay, so meaning that they do allow the industry to apply for all these claims. Okay, and even they allow industry to submit new claims if they actually are able to uh, show all the evidence. I think like the one that I showed just now, the newer one are actually submitted by the food industry, so that when they have sufficient of evidence in Malaysia, actually they will accept it. Okay, but it's not actually very fast, I would say. I have heard from food industry complaining to me that all these regulatory in Malaysia do take some time to approve a lot of things. Okay, so even like some of the especially the newer claim. Okay, so if you want to claim a new things, okay, it will take quite at least a few years before you can get it approved. So sometimes some industry might find it a bit like if it takes some time, right? So after a few years, this kind of claim might not be so new anymore for them, or they might not be the only sole player in the market. So this can be some of the setback for the industry side. But I would think that it will be something that is good to regulate it, so that you don't get all the new claim coming in like so fast. Okay, so you will see that the claim come in slower, and also it will have some few years to see whether all these claims are actually correct or not. I remember there's like one this one I think is not a claim made by the to go through the industry, but actually there's actually a complaint by another competitor. So this is actually on coffee. I'm not sure whether you have this kind of coffee in Indonesia. They claim it as a low acid coffee. Okay, so meaning that the acid is not so the coffee is not so acidic. So they claim it as low acid coffee. Okay, actually they mention it in the claim as a low acid. Okay, but because in our regulation there's no such claim as low acid, but it actually have been marketed as such, and there's one competitor, also another coffee company, actually complained to the Ministry of Health regulatory in where they actually say that this kind of claim is not permitted. Okay, and how can you claim actually a coffee being low acid? Okay, but after that, I think the company actually try to what we call that change the claim that actually they use, so that after that the issue was actually settled. Okay, so I think in Malaysia the regulatory I would say that it's not fast. Okay, but it's actually monitoring quite a lot of things. Okay, and for sanction, right? I think so far we have not seen any sanction for the industry, but they have been given warning letters. Okay, so maybe after warning letters, and if they do not follow accordingly, maybe they were given sanction. But so far, after warning letter, they actually follow. Okay, and I find that a lot of these warning letters and things like that actually happen to those companies that market infant formula. I would say that because they break the code of ethics for the marketing of infant formula and breastfeeding. Okay, so that is more for those kind of things. But for like health claim functional food, they tend to able to follow this quite good. Okay, especially the bigger industry. But maybe the smaller industry, sometimes you will find that they dare not use some of this health claim, but always there will be like, you know, this kind of word of mouth testimony that this is good or that is good. So it might not appear on the labels, but they will come together with a testimony or additional pamphlets or something like that. So this is a way of marketing, but they will not appear in their packaging. Okay, but I have seen this is something that that is being put into together with the food. Okay.
Okay, and then Mrs. Septa also adding about she read that she think we also has the BPOM regulation. BPOM is Badan Pengawasan Obat dan Makanan in Indonesia, and we has also the regulation about it, that is the Peraturan Kepala Badan Pengawas Obat dan Makanan Republik Indonesia nomor 13 tahun 2016, and in that regulation we also has already mentioned that we cannot claiming food for if we have no evidence based on it, but sometimes in Indonesia it is quite hard to make sure that all industry are following that regulation. So yeah, it is quite a challenge in Indonesia. And then Ibu Konita also want to ask, Prof, I hear Malaysia have been implemented pilihan lebih sehat for packaged food. Does it also correlate or targeted functional food as well?
Okay, I think the main objective of this healthier food choice, they will put it a logo there, right? Okay, so the healthier food choice is actually is like to give the consumer the idea that this actually fulfill all the healthy choice, healthy what we call that criteria. Okay, so maybe like less sugar, high fiber, less sodium, and so on. Okay, so if you look at those kind of things, they actually go for the normal nutrients. Okay, so maybe like especially these three things: fiber, calorie, sugar as well as sodium. So if you can look at that as the main ingredients of the food, then you can find that actually they are fulfilling this kind of criteria. But maybe you can say that it also might fall into some of these functional food, but I think most of the functional food are actually looking at like specific health benefit. Okay, so the healthier food choice, right, is actually targeting at the general things. Like, so for example, like if you compare this brand A and brand B, if you have the healthier choice logo on this particular brand A, so consumer will think that, oh, this is actually having all the component, especially like the sugar, the sodium, the calorie, as well as the fiber is sufficient or something like that. So they can actually, but for functional food, especially if you want to look at the specific ingredients like beta glucan or polyphenols or certain kind of things as it is, right? Or even like just like we have looked at it like oats as generally, okay, or cranberry or garlic as functional food. So maybe this will be something that not necessarily you will get this kind of healthier choice logo, because some of these are actually just added in food ingredients. So maybe we might miss out on some of these functional food. Okay, so they do have criteria for the healthier choice label for this kind of food.
Okay, Bu Konita or Ibu Dina, do you want to add any discussion?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Hi, Prof. Prof. Long. Very sorry for just appearing my face on the last day because I was very busy listening to you while doing something else. You know, working from home, cooking and everything. But I'm listening very carefully. Thank you very much. Regarding the functional food, I actually found this kind of regulation from Badan POM, just like Pak Dominikus said, Badan Pengawas Obat dan Makanan. It's actually quite old, in 2005. I'm not sure whether or not we have the most updated one, but in here it was said that komponen pangan fungsional was actually categorized as vitamin, minerals, alcohol, sugar, unsaturated fat, etc., until polyphenol and isoflavone and etc. But in the last part of the appendix, it said that any health claims was actually not allowed, but they can have such kind of information saying that, for example, just like you said, mentioned earlier, if the product said that it contains 10% of let's say vitamin A from the recommended dietary allowance per day. Let's say vitamin C is actually beneficial for as an antioxidant or something like that, but it's not allowed to mention whether or not it can prevent any diseases or something else. So yeah, I think I scrolled down and I didn't find anything about allowing health claims to be mentioned. But one of my concern is actually I don't actually often to follow their meetings, but once I had an opportunity to follow one of their meetings about having the food label for the high fat, sugar, and salt, they still have a problem with they know actually that they have to put like a traffic light information, nutrition fact, something like that. They know that it's efficient, but again, they have to think about the industry. I talked about one of the industry at the break time, and they said it's quite difficult because they have to do the reprinting in a very massive activity while they already have the old packaging. So it's quite challenge for them. But for me, if that's the only reason, it's supposed to be feasible for the next couple of years, maybe. But I don't know. I didn't see any like further intention to make it a reality because Badan POM said also the nutrition fact label is not mandatory. Actually, it's still voluntarily done in most of the products. So if the nutrition fact is still voluntary, then what about the health claims, especially in functional food? I don't think it's quite an agenda in the very near time, Prof. I think that's I can.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I will agree with that. I think industry, some of them are not very willing to follow these kind of things unless it's for marketing purposes. They will see the benefit of it. But other than that, I think they are not so keen on, like as you say, changing their packaging and putting something that they might think that is not beneficial, because maybe for them the consumer or the public are not actually basing all these things to buy their product. Okay, so they don't see what is the plus point for them for doing it. But I think some bigger industry are doing it. I don't want to name names, but if you notice some of the big industries, right, they actually are following some of the things, maybe because in other parts of the world they are already doing it, so for them to do it in like Malaysia or Indonesia is not a problem at all, right? Okay, so but if you want to start from zero to do all these things, maybe they will find that it's very difficult, especially for small players. I would say the big players, I don't see them having any problem at all. Okay, so to change, like for example, like in Malaysia we have the sweetened sugar beverage tax. Okay, so they actually, some of the companies I heard actually absorb this tax, and so we don't actually see increase in price in some of the, even the sugar sweetened beverages. And I was thinking like, oh, we have been having all this tax and I don't even know it, because they have not actually increased the price of the sweetened sugar beverages, especially the what we call that, the carbonated drink. Okay, so but actually have been implemented in Malaysia for 2 years, and I see a lot of consumer are not aware of this tax actually.
Okay, do you want to add again, Ibu Dina?
No, I guess I was just thinking about that hidden health claims again, Prof, because, you know, the testimonial and someone's success story that I mentioned before is really influencing here in Indonesia. You know, the panic buying is really happened here. Like maybe I would say one type of milk that is actually usual cow's milk, but it was actually branded as something different. I don't know. I think the industry doesn't do that, but the community does that. I mean, I don't know. Even once my father was actually diagnosed for COVID-19, I was having intention to buy that one as well. But then I realized I don't think it has like a better effect compared to other cow's milk or any other products. So I believe that, just like you said, education is a very important thing. And even those who are educated, sometimes when they're in a panic condition, they don't have someone to talk with.
Yeah.
They tend to do the same.
Yes. I find that not necessarily the more educated you are, you will be better, because I also have friends who are quite educated, also will follow the same thing. Especially if they have money, they are willing to try everything. They don't mind actually. You just say good, they will buy without actually looking at whether is it necessary or any health side effect especially. Okay.
Yeah, the thing is, when the richer bought that, then the poor will have less access to buy such things as well. So that's our problem actually.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, thank you, Dina.
Yeah, Ibu Konita also, like personal testimony is also good marketing to buy food products. Okay. Do you want to add something, Ibu Konita?
No, Madomi. I think it's enough, and it's good to hear the conversation between Budina and Prof Lo related with the COVID-19. Actually, if people say like, me myself or my family drinking this or eating this, and then they got better. Last information that I got is that if people got COVID-19 and then they drink alcohol, which is not permitted in our religion, and they said it's good for COVID-19 and so on. So personal testimony in this pandemic is very marketable for food products, as Budina said. Thank you.
Yeah, I think like whatever that is like mentioned, especially testimony, that actually can influence how we actually buy the product. So just now I share with you all the table that bar chart, right, showing for the elderly in the US, knowledge is the one thing, but you can also see uh, uh, influence of friends, family members as well is also part of it. Okay, so but maybe it's not like as high as knowledge, but in different situation, I think especially when we are desperate, okay, we tend to believe in more, or we are willing to give it a try, I think. Okay, so that's where I see why people are um, using more different things which we have never hear people willing to try before, especially during COVID-19. Okay, so I think that is something that is like indirectly causing like not to say panic buying, but panic trying. I would say that we just try everything that we can get our hands on, and if you say it's good, I will just try it. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Lo. Is there anyone else who want to ask directly to Prof. Lo? Okay, I want to ask something. In Indonesia, we had a person from the ministry called Penyuluh Keamanan Pangan, which is they are giving a better knowledge to people to choose healthier product, especially in the rural area. Is there any person in Malaysia also has the same role like that?
Oh, I'm not sure whether is it the same as what we call that as we call this as pegawai sains pemakanan. It's called nutritionist in Malaysia. So all the government health clinic, we will have one nutritionist. So regardless of whether it's rural area or urban area, so we will have this person called a nutritionist or pegawai sains pemakanan. Okay, so they will be actually based in the clinic. So they will be like giving consultation to the pregnant mother, to the children who are stunted, underweight, and so on, or obese. And also they will go to the schools to give talks, as well as and in certain rural area, we have also the program called the bakul makanan. So this is where they give a food basket, especially for children that is not meeting like the height for weight, as height for age, as well as the weight for age, and the BMI criteria that is according to the WHO. So if they fail to meet that, actually they are eligible to get this food basket, especially if the family income is very low. Okay, so they will actually visit house and give education to those kind of family. Okay, and so they have some community kind of engagement with the community there as well. So this will be something that is going to be part of the nutritionist job. So regardless of whether rural or urban area, they actually have, we have more nutritionists in the urban area, okay, because I guess the population in the urban area is actually higher compared to the rural. Okay, so if I can say that, that will be the same job as the nutritionist job in Malaysia.
Okay, I think we have no question anymore. Maybe you want to give any closing statement to sum up our summer course, maybe?
Okay, I'm actually very happy to be here for 4 days. Okay, so to be with you all. Okay, so from antioxidant up to functional food, I really hope you all have learned something. I myself, in the midst of going through all the information and things like that, also I managed to gain even more knowledge than previously. Okay, so I do hope you all will be able to gain all the necessary knowledge, something that hopefully in the future you'll be able to use it. Okay, so maybe maybe some of us might not actually be working in the lab like antioxidant, but at least you know how antioxidant is measured and how you can actually relate some of the antioxidant with functional food and all the regulation that is involved in it.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Lo, for the very insightful course for the previous 4 days. Maybe for the next agenda, we may meet in person after the COVID-19 is over. And maybe I give back to Eureka.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Peng and Mr. Dominicus. Well, ladies and gentlemen, after this, we will have a post test, and I will send the post test link to the chat box, and the duration of the post test is 10 minutes. So wait, I have to copy first. Okay, this is the link for the post test. Make sure that you go through it, and the countdown for 10 minutes starts now. Okay, so time is up. The 10 minutes is already passed. Well, okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have finally come to the end of our summer course program. We hope this program is beneficial for your academic, research, and your career. Also, the link to download the e-certificate will be sent to your email, so make sure you fill the right email or you can contact the committee. Also, we would like to apologize if there were any mistakes that we made during this program. And please check out the other courses offered by PHAUSS because we have lots of interesting courses. Also, next week, we will have courses from Professor Masaharu from Japan with the topic on understanding human body composition and its assessment technique. And before we leave this Zoom meeting, I would like to invite all of you to turn on your camera because we will take a picture together. So maybe could you please turn on your camera because this will be our last photo shoot. Okay. Okay, I will still wait for you to turn on your camera. There are 3 slides in this Zoom room, so I will count to 3 and take picture, okay? So please stay. I don't know where you are. You don't know where you are at in my screen, so please stay until the last slide, okay? So 1, 2, 3. Okay, the second slide, 1, 2, 3. And the last slide, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you so much everyone for your participation. We are hoping to see you in our next course or maybe other course, and see you next time. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much.
Prof.
Thank you so much, Professor Peng.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Prof.
Prof.
See you.
Thank you, Prof. Stay healthy.
Thank you, everyone.
Terima kasih Mbak Eureka, Pak Domi. Pamit
Terima kasih
ya.
juga Mbak Dina.
Mohon maaf nih nanyanya banyak yang silly. Sukses terus ya. Ikut terus nih paus berikutnya.
Iya, siap Mbak Dina.
Thank you ya.
Iya, ditunggu minggu depan.
Allah.
Terima kasih Pak Domi.